You might hear or read a lot that a main point of estate planning today is to avoid probate. So, what is probate? Probate is simply a court process where your assets are distributed to your heirs or beneficiaries, either by your instructions and wishes if you have a will, or under state law if you don't. That's right. If you don't have a will or a trust, I'll explain that later, the New York State decides who gets your assets and who oversees the process. In New York, this is done in the surrogate's court. Every state has their own probate court process, and this is where a judge says who's in charge of the estate. That's your executor if you have a will, or your administrator if you don't. And when you pass away, the judge decides or approves whoever is in charge of making sure that your assets go to the people who are legally entitled to them. Surrogate's court is also where the court selects a person to oversee assets and medical decisions where there's a minor child or an incapacitated adult. This happens if you don't have written documents in place expressing what you choose. So if you've chosen, then the judge makes sure that they are qualified and then gives them the legal authority to do what needs to be done. So one way to think about it is that the probate or administration process is, well, it's a plan, so to speak, for those without a plan. If you haven't done estate planning to avoid probate, you're leaving it up to a judge to figure out who's in charge of your finances if you're incapacitated, who's the guardian of your children if something happens to you and you have minor children, who's in charge of getting your assets gathered and inventoried, paying your creditors, and ultimately distributing your estate out to your heirs. That's where a judge has to fill in the gaps if you haven't documented your own decisions. So it's a court proceeding. When your family members or loved ones have to go through probate to help you or your estate, they're going to get a court number. And just like any other legal proceeding, court records are public, available online, and a judge is deciding things along the way. Certain people are required to be notified about it, and they even have a right to challenge your decisions. Doing this process in New York, well, it takes at least 7 months, but it usually takes more like a year or two. It just depends on what county you live in. And it can also cost a lot of money. There's court filing fees, executor fees, accountant fees, appraisals, etc., and of course the legal fees. But here's the thing. Going to court is not a must when it comes to estate planning. You can try to avoid probate with proper planning if you put things in writing ahead of time, and if you understand what can be done with certain types of assets that don't go through the probate process. But with any estate planning that you do online or yourself, you're likely going to miss a few key components. Or to the extent that you haven't done an estate plan at all, well, then probate fills in the gaps for your plan. And if you don't meet all the technical requirements of signing the will and signing and executing and doing all that stuff for the other documents, or there are people who disagree with your plan, well, this is where they go to challenge it right in the probate process. Another way to avoid your family having to go to court is with a properly drafted and fully funded revocable living trust. Again, if it's not done properly, surrogate court is where your family goes to have the judge sort it out. But if done properly, you can avoid any court at all. So, we are happy to give you more information about the probate process and how to avoid it. Just give us a call and we can set you up for an appointment. We also go into this more during our free seminars and our free webinars, and you are welcome to attend those at any time. So I encourage you to get on our newsletter list so that you can find out about them. All right, have a wonderful day. Thank you for watching.